we've all been using Copilot and Intelligent Recap and a lot of the meetings experiences, which there is the pre, during, and post life cycle. When you think about calling, it's you're picking up the phone. It's not something on the calendar that's scheduled that you'll have those artifacts. So we're very intentionally designing around that life cycle.
Welcome back to the Empowering Cloud podcast. This week we have Emily Kirby George, who is a senior product manager in Microsoft Teams Engineering, looking after some of the calling features. Emily gives us a really interesting perspective on what it's like to be a product manager, particularly inside Teams Phone and calling. Emily actually came up through the support organization supporting Skype for Business and actually helping internally at Microsoft with the Teams migration as well. We get a really good perspective from her and her journey, and also talk about Teams Phone, the importance of phone, and kind of the importance of both the fundamentals and some of the exciting new features that are coming down the pipe. Many thanks to Emily for taking the time to jump on the show. Really appreciate it. And also many thanks to Logitech, who are this podcast sponsors. Really appreciate their support of Empowering Cloud. On with the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Excited to talk to somebody recently joined the product group on the calling side, but has a really interesting history in our space. So, Emily, welcome to the show. If you just want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Hi, folks. My name is Emily Kirby George, and I am a senior product manager here on the Teams calling team. And I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, thanks for making the time. Really appreciate it. So you've got a really interesting kind of journey into the product manager role. I can't remember when we first met, but it was probably a little while ago now. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about the journey and where you started with Microsoft and with Teams.
Sure. So I started, it'll be 9 years ago next year, about 8.5 years in our product support organization. I was supporting Skype for Business, hybrid and online. So I think is the role that I'm most thankful that I've had, because it was a great grounding for the roles that I've had since then. And as part of that, I started supporting in beta what is now Microsoft Teams. So that kind of was the foot into the Teams journey. From support, I went and joined our internal IT organization, Microsoft IT, as part of the initiative to roll out Teams to Microsoft. So all of the side-by-side and islands mode times. That was
slightly messy early days when
yes.
We were all still in love with Skype for Business and Teams was the new kid on the block. It's hard to think back that far now.
It is. And some of the things that, we would have to do, we would have to tell our employees to do and then ourselves do, like, where do I take a meeting and where do my calls come in? So, you think back and long gone are the days. But it was a great view of, hey, an enterprise at scale, this is how they have to consume these sorts of changes. So if we're going to have our customers do it, let's, be able to tell the tale. And
then for people listening, Microsoft kind of live right on the edge internally. So things go kind of through the tap rings and the early access, and then Microsoft production is slightly before customer production. So it really, when you're dealing with internal deployments, it really is early days.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much eating the dog food, we say. So once that project was coming to an end and all of our users were, for the most part, on Teams, I joined the Teams engineering group, a special team called the Quality and Customer Obsession Group. And so I think if I can think back, one of the places we probably met, Tom, was when I was doing the roadshow of Microsoft's migration. And then that's the team I ended up joining, was the team that was taking all of our feedback and helping prioritize that, like, hey, this is what Microsoft would need. That's a good sign that other organizations are going to need the same thing. And that team was really all about focusing on keeping a high quality bar and obsessing over customers and ensuring that we were really championing for all of the users. And these are folks without account teams necessarily. It's just people giving feedback. And we were the ones internally voicing it. So
it's awesome. I love it when people come into product who've been on that kind of front line of support and have felt the pain and the challenges if things aren't working right, or just the various requirements that customers have. I mean, Microsoft Teams is such a big product. 320 million monthly active users. There's all types of users, all types of customers, all types of verticals. It is incredibly diverse.
it really is. And I think some of the perspectives that I still take with me today is, especially during COVID, I was responsible for the meetings area and representing all of the different, all of the issues and requests and feedback on meetings. And I remember one piece of feedback. It was I think a psychiatrist, and he said, I'm trying to meet with my patients and I can't, and I'm having a lot of trouble. And a lot of times, just the nature of our business and the legacy, you're thinking enterprise. And so being able to switch and say, oh, that psychiatrist, and I forget, what state it was, and thinking about them when we're making these decisions. Always, we have a very diverse customer base, whether or not we design for them. It doesn't always have the customer names next to it, so we have to account for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like, obviously, Microsoft have a massive base in the enterprise, and it feels like that's the default just because of the mass. But then there's this incredibly interesting kind of challenge you have in product of designing for enterprises that want a policy and a toggle for everything, and then designing for a 20 user org that just basically just wants it to work. It doesn't really want a toggle or a button for anything, and you've got everything in between.
Exactly. Right. And especially now that I'm in the calling space, that's even more highlighted with the complexity of phone and different deployments. And, these customers and enterprises they have these huge deployments, and they've had a lot of different solutions that they've used. And so accounting for that, while also the people who just want it to work, they just want to make a phone call.
I think calling is a really interesting space to be in, because as you say, there's some really esoteric requirements in there, and we're at the 20 plus million monthly active users now. So there's a good base there, but there's a lot more out there still on traditional phone systems, legacy phone systems, other platforms. Talk to us a little bit, I guess, how does that even work internally in terms of features and prioritization? I know you recently had some features announced at Ignite as well, which were, things that some people might think are smaller features, but are so important to so many customers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, we have to put on a different lens or look through a different lens when we're prioritizing our features, because we have that legacy experience that we need to maintain while also keeping up and even getting ahead of in the intelligence space. I mean, Ignite Copilot was on the forefront of everything, but when you think something like a phone number, we have to really maintain both of those pillars and bring them together as well. The feature that just shipped, we were chatting, it's delayed simultaneous ring, which great, it's out. It's nothing really fancy, but for the people who need it, the ability to say, hey, wait to ring the rest of my call group 15 seconds, it really makes or breaks that experience for them. There was a ton of feedback from really large names saying that it was, they had dollar signs with the disruption and the loss of productivity with their phones. As soon as the phone would ring, it rings everybody. And, there's no AI in that. But it has this tangible productivity boost by shipping it, and it was just a long tail feature that we were able to get out. And then things like QZap, which we have now a ground for intelligence to build on that at some point. So it's designing for the future as well as not forgetting
It's
some of the
a real
basics.
interesting tension, isn't it? It's like we can invest cycles in this traditional feature that maybe hundreds of thousands of users have. And I think the thing that gets missed sometimes with the traditional features is it's not going to go out to all 20 million users to be used, but the subset it is will unlock a customer to move their organization, and they won't move until this piece works or this piece works very often.
Yes, exactly. There were several customers who were unlocked by that one feature. So, perfect example.
That's awesome. So how and to us, as you can say, obviously, how does that feature list gets prioritized? Because there must be a huge potential list of features in calling, both in like ways you can innovate into the new world of AI and traditional features that you could, replicate in Teams. How does that decision process work?
It is as much an art as a science. And, we just finished planning for next semester, so the first half of 2025. And it was my first real planning because when I joined the team, it was the end of March. And so I joined right when planning was happening, and I was, thrown into the fire and was just trying to not get burned. But this was the first real time when I was, had to make some decisions and,
Yeah.
be part of all of the fun. And it's hard. I really, respect the level of intention that our leadership puts in to making the decisions, because a lot of them are very difficult. There's some, we call them hard cuts. So either it's going to make it or it's a hard cut. And those cuts, they're hard when it's something that, you try not to get too attached to what you're working on, because it can be cut at any time. But for the customers who are waiting for it, we want to get those things out. I'd say that at this point, really the focus is fundamentals, and it has been for quite some time now. Just getting the table stakes solid, and then once those are there, AI intelligence. How can we modernize the business? And then the remaining is like delayed simul ring, really that long tail and continuing to round out the feature set. So it kind of high level, those are the three pillars.
I love hearing fundamentals. Like it doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't win any headlines and it doesn't get Wall Street excited, but it's like, it's so important, even more so in phone. And I know loads went in, kind of in the last few semesters around just Teams client and stability and speed and tenant switching and the new client. And like, it's hard to like this, the new client has gone amazingly well. I mean, that's switching hundreds of billions of users to a completely new client. And there wasn't really any big challenges that I saw externally, which is just amazing.
It was really monumental. And, to say it took a village is an understatement. And it's pretty remarkable with, I mean, the loads of planning that went in, that it really did pay off, and that you're able to say, from your very well versed perception and exposure to the industry, that you're able to say that. So it's good on the team.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of credit to the team there. So let's talk that kind of futures of phone and AI. So, I mean, at Ignite, there was some announcements around kind of further extensibility of Teams phone, and you've got to be thinking about AI capabilities. What are you thinking there? Because there's quite a lot there, isn't there?
There is, and a lot of what we're doing is really trying to understand what specific to phone and the phone workflows. We've all been using Copilot, and intelligent recap and a lot of the meetings experiences, which there is the pre, during, and post life cycle. When you think about calling, it's you're picking up the phone. You're not, it's not something on the calendar that's scheduled that you'll have those artifacts. So we're very intentionally designing around that life cycle, and not just trying to copy and paste and just put AI wherever there's a surface. We are thinking a lot about the future in B2B and, with Q's app, how can we bring surface intelligence there for productivity and Q performance as well as customers. So these are a lot of things that we're thinking about for the future to round out the investments that we're currently delivering on.
Yeah, it's reassuring to hear that we're not just copy pasting AI into any feature, because it definitely feels like there's a lot of push to get AI in and it's being thought through. I hadn't really thought about that so consciously until we had our prep call, and you were saying like it really makes sense actually that meeting recap, intelligent meeting recap, you know the intent of the meeting, you know what's happening, you're summarizing it. Calling is quite different, isn't it? The potential there I think is more around pulling information into that session, maybe your phone numbers so you know who's calling, you know the call's happening, but you know who it is. And then the CRM integration. Like I think we're right on the cusp of it now, but I think everybody's dying for like auto transcribed goes into the CRM. Like that's been a dream for years and years.
Exactly. Those are the exact sorts of things we're thinking about. When you're late for a meeting, recap the last 5 minutes. You won't have that in a call, right? Likely, unless you weren't paying attention.
You're really not paying attention.
Yeah. But the hope is that, we're unlocking new intelligence avenues versus plugging ones that we could plug, but don't serve the need quite as much. So there's a lot of opportunity that we're thinking about.
That's really exciting, and I was really excited to hear about the extensibility. It feels like, again, it's funny, like back in the Link and Skype days, we had that kind of CBP story, and it's like it's now turbocharged with AI, because suddenly it's like, right. You could actually take the media stream and do stuff with it, which we never could have done, a decade ago.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, like, going back to the fundamentals, last thing I wanted to touch on is that there's been a lot of work done around the kind of availability as well, hasn't there? The service went up to 5 nines, and the SBA work that's been done recently about the kind of 7-day token. And it feels like you've said it, but I just want to be clear. Like there's a lot of work in the not sexy features that is really important to customers.
It is. The majority of the work that our team is doing is on the non shiny, sexy, headline making features, but it's the ones that at the end of the day, if we haven't done those investments, we have nothing to stand on. So, and again, going back to those hard cuts, when we have the shiny new opportunities of AI, those are where it's a difficult decision to say, hey, no, we have to focus on the fundamentals. Because AI stuff, it's fun. Everyone gets excited.
It's exciting.
You want to, but it's something that our team has. We, like I said, just did the planning, and when you can visualize the hours of work, the fundamentals bucket was very, very, very full on that visual. So
and it's great to understand. Yeah, it's great to understand on that list of features as well that like it's a hard decision. Like very often you see people who are kind of far removed from Microsoft. It's like, it's so obvious this feature needs to be done. And it's like, there's almost a feeling if they don't know how it works, they're like, well, how could Microsoft not see this gap needs closing? And it's not a lack of understanding very often. It's just hard choices to be made. I guess you see that from the inside now because you've gone up through support. So you must have, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but you must have hit support issues where you're like, how is this not hit the top of the list yet?
Absolutely. I mean, even my most recent role, and it's kind of hindsight is always 2020, and I'm a few years in now, 8 years, and it's interesting that I'm just having those lights switch on that I get why this feature hasn't happened yet. When yeah, no, you put words in my mouth, but spot on. I would sit there and be like, why hasn't this happened? There's so many asks, or on user voice, it's number one.
Yeah.
Just do it already. But it's really not that simple, and they're not decisions that are taken lightly for sure.
And the cross team dependencies is the other fun one. It's like, well, who like this needs fixing? Oh, well, it depends on this and this and this and this
Yes.
team and this team.
Yeah, and I really didn't understand that either. I mean, you hear, oh, dependencies, and I'm like, yeah, well, it's always easier said than done,
Yeah,
especially on the outside. But
you just pack them together on a Teams call and make it happen, right?
yeah, just figure it out. Just all talk and, just sort it out. But one of my features that there's, I think, 7 or 8 teams that all have to, really the stars have to align, because not only they all have their own priorities, and then taking,
Yeah.
it's a complex, dance to make it happen. But it does. I mean, I think the biggest and best example is, the new teams that client that came out. That was, the North
I mean,
Star of
that's basically everybody, isn't it? At that point,
exactly. Yeah. So
that's
while keeping
awesome.
the other thing up and running.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, Emily, thanks for giving us that perspective. Really excited for you being in product, and I'm really, yes, I'm really excited to meet somebody that's been up through the Skype world and through the support and customer facing side is in making calling decisions. It's really reassuring. So thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. We'll get you back in maybe when your semester or two ends and you've got some new features to talk about. We can talk about them on the show.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll have a few more lights go off, and my perspective from today will even be changed.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.